I'm Jeff with Z Design and Build. I'm here with Eric, and we're going to ask him some questions today about what it costs to do a remodel in the greater Seattle area.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Why doesn't anyone know what it costs to do a remodel online?
I think it's best as far as like Seattle goes, especially in the greater Seattle area, is that we have so many different variables to work with that like I couldn't just say, hey, it's going to be $100,000 for a remodel for A, B, or C. Variables that consist of property lines, city or county restrictions or rules, regulations. Also just like what kind of house or buildings are already on the property, or allowances of space on the property. So that's a big hitter as far as like how there's not available pricing for like a specific, like, hey, I want to do an ADU for my house. Like I would never be able to say, hey, yeah, here's $50,000 to do this. It has to be in tune of getting some ideas, getting it on paper, working with an engineering team or an architectural team, and of course with us designing it all out. But the big process is just the other variable that is hard for us to even quote from is like client choices. Like, you can have a $150 toilet, you could have a $700 toilet, you could have a $5,000 toilet. So like, where do you stand is like, I could easily, do, quote unquote builder grade products, but the level is that every person on this planet has different tastes, different choices, different even budget in general. So I know that there's like, going back to toilets specifically, is I know that there's a good quality toilet at $150, but at the same point, it might not be the standard that a client does want. Like I know of a great $700 Toto toilet. And there's apples to oranges on just price tag there.
Makes total sense. So that said, if there's two houses on the same street, what different variables would there be? Could you assume that would the logical assumption be that they would cost the same?
I think it just going back to like a client's decisions and choices. If we had the same home, and this goes back into just age of home. Like if let's just say the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s, where they did the split level homes. The crazy part about it is that there wasn't as many standards and regulations and rules on how to build a home back then. So you could have two different builders building the same exact house on the same exact street and still getting a completely different home. So like if we're trying to, for whatever reason, tie on to it and the electrical panels are smaller or the framing's different, because those are two big ones that they just would toss stuff together really. How do you play it in? So like, a lot of clients come and ask us like, hey, can you give us a square footage pricing? Can you give us like a round number of what you're expecting? And it's not giving the client justice as far as providing them what they're wanting rather than what they're needing rather than what they're wanting. A client can want to know what it's going to be, and we can easily say, hey, yeah, it's going to be $100,000 for a remodel, but we're also not a company that's going to like add on upon add on of change orders and adjustments to make our money back just because the client wanted to hear that first number. So we want to obviously I'm a realist, and we try to keep the company in that realist form of, I'm blunt. I want to be upfront as far as like the information, and so that there's no surprises at the end of the job or during the job, but also just like sticker shock. Like I want to give the clients all the information that they have, so they know going in what it's going to be, because we can have another contractor come in and say, hey, we've bid it at 150, but they've bid at 100, knowing that they've not expressed to the client, hey, yeah, we are going to charge you and we're going to charge you more. It's just, we're not saying that to get your business, but then they sign up with this $100,000 job, getting $75,000 in change orders, where if they had, if they'd worked with us, that $150,000 estimate would have been exact, unless, well, the only reason we do the only reason numbers increase for us is a change order by the client saying, this is what we want add on. Or we open it up and we find out walls are rotted out or damaged, water damage, whatever. But in general, we try to be as upfront as possible, because I think that's what a client deserves. And there's unfortunately, a lot of contractors out there that misuse the system to get in the front door, sign the contract, and then the client 6 months later is like, why am I spending double?
Yep, no, that's a great point. I think that leads right into the next question too, of what do homeowners not realize they need to consider when looking at a remodel? I think you just hit on one of them.
Yeah. Budget is, I'm 50-50 now. I used to be in my earlier age, not asking for a budget, but it got to a point where we provide them, a client, with all of their wants. We call it the whole world estimate now. We give them everything that they've asked for from A to Z, and then we show them their estimate and say, hey, here's all in. And some people will say, hey, that works. This is our great budget. But then if the budget is not friendly to what they were expecting, then we can, notch down and work out different scenarios to provide better pricing for their budget. But what you're wanting to look for is, one, solidity, trust. Our company has been around since 2012. So, I've been in the construction world for the last 20-25 years. You've obviously had experience as well. So, we have a lot of experience in the company now, which is great. But also, I would recommend, outside of getting an estimate from us, is getting multiple estimates, getting 2 estimates, 3 estimates, whatever, from other companies that are reputable. But really the logistics of having some ideas. As a design and build firm, we can do it all. Just the caveat with that is giving us a direction. We can do mid-modern, we can do craftsman, we can do colonial, we can do whatever you want. But if my design aspect is craftsman and you want mid-modern, and we're going down that rabbit hole too far, we've not used the time wisely. And so having an idea of what direction you want, if you're doing a remodel, like if you have an idea, like we say, go to Pinterest, go to House, go to Google Images and look up these ideas and just have a collage, back when we were in school, like we had, cut out magazines and have collages of our goals. And that's kind of like that same principle in a more digital way now, of just come up with, even if it's like 4 or 5 pictures of, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is our look. How can we make that possible? And then we can directly go that way.
How reliable is a quote from an average general contractor versus a design build group?
Kind of touching back onto the fact that we're going to be an upfront and honest company. That's hard to say, because I'm sure everyone will say that same principle. But the big part about it is, what you see is what you get. You're going to get an exact quote of everything you asked for, over communication, over discussion, making sure that everything works for you. When we provide the estimates, we're going to walk you through the entire estimate. So like from A to Z, from the demo down to the turnkey and handing the keys back over to you, walking back into your new kitchen, your new house, your new remodel, whatever. We're walking you through that entire list of things, so you understand where the numbers came from, what the allocations, so what I call client homework. So your cabinets, your flooring, your paint colors, even like all the design aspects of what you're trying to accomplish to make your dream a reality, is all those kinds of features. Going back to, as far as like a general contractor or other design build firms, I don't like to speak negatively about anyone. So I can't speak for any specific contractor, but the big one is that We usually ask for a fairly larger deposit, but that's when we do progress payments and schedules and all that kind of stuff. But having a contractor or even a design build firm, just any company out there that is not communicative or does not give you everything, like anything that you've talked about, like that would be one red flag. But the difference between in a general contractor to a design build firm, I think, is that the design build firm is working 5 steps ahead, where the general contractor, in the most part, in my opinion, is working from like a plan set of like, okay, you want A, B, C, we can do A, B, C, rather than, well, what happens after A, B, and C is done? They're going to need this or they're going to need that, or a lot of clients, one, they need visuals. So we have 2D and 3D renderings that we can offer that general contractors, for the most part, can't. But also giving them like that 5 steps ahead. We have a lot of clients come back and say, hey, we're not only overly impressed with what you did, but like this is exactly how you said it was going to be, exactly how your design was going to be. And you took it a step further and made it like so much better than we were even expecting, even with all of the prep work. And I think that's where a general contractor says, okay, they're really just going to follow that line. Just say, hey, we're following the leader. And that's what a design build firm can do is kind of be that leader and guide and analyze all the different things, including those 5 steps ahead where the client's not really thinking about, oh yeah, hey, like when I open the front door, how is it going to open? Is it going to open into a space, or is it going to be awkward? And that's, like light switches or just outlets in general. Like a lot of electricians will put the outlets to code, but it's in the middle of a wall in a bedroom, or you put a bed up there. Now you have to access that outlet. So very similar across the board as far as any of our jobs go is that 5 steps ahead process, but also again providing it's in the name, the design aspect of it, where general contractors just say, hey, this is the cabinets, this is the flooring, but not giving you a design board or a good layout, like how all of the products are going to mesh.
Makes sense. It also seems like a GC would also be more willing or able to give you just a square foot price as opposed to an actual designed build bid estimate as well.
Exactly.
Which leads me, if someone's quoting work over the phone without ever seeing my property, how realistic it is that it's going to cost that?
It's never realistic ever. I mean, you've probably can attest to this too. It's never realistic. Everyone, including us, needs a visual. Again, going back to the very first part of this conversation, is every project, every property is different, no matter what. Other than, a year like custom home, or not custom homes, but cookie cutter homes. They're all going to be built the same way and have all the same process within the last 6 months or so. But like someone previously owned home from 6 months in to 50, 100, 200-year-old home, all have going to be touched by someone or someone else. Like whether it be the property owners, their brother, their friend who was an electrician, or hiring other teams to come in and do the stuff. Everything's been altered. So we've not seen it be super simple of like, oh yeah, like, we want to do a new kitchen layout, and we didn't get to tell you that the electricians were messing with it, or it's knob and tube, for instance. 100-year-old home. So there's so many different variables that when we quote, we only are getting a slice of the pie information from that, rather than with the visuals. And this goes back to when we do price out, and our crews, our electricians, or HVAC, or our plumbers also will need this as well, is the visuals of the site. Especially those 3 different phases are super important, because those are high in costs numbers, no matter what, just because of the amount of work required. So a 50-year-old home could have a backup and a pipe that we're unaware of. So then we do the remodel, and they use their new bathroom, their new kitchen, and it floods. So, just having an inspection, just not even just like home inspection, but just having that visually seen property plays an important role. And again, goes back into like scheduling and basically doing everything the right way, the right way the first time, is that ability of making sure that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. So then you're not having to jump back and forth and deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the best way to get an accurate quote when it comes to doing a remodel?
That's a really great question. Honestly, depending on where you're trying to go, if you're trying to do any sort of new construction, remodels, additions, even just plain old new construction, we definitely are going to have a discussion on if you have if you've already had a plan set built or made from an engineering team, an architectural team. If that has already been taken care of, then we basically need to get those drawings, do a site visit, even if it's new construction and it's just dirt. Getting that site inspection, having the crews, we do what is called, I call it open house, kind of like what realtors do. We have crews come in and take a look at this site as well. So we have all the teams come in on one single day, so it's not interrupting any of our clients' schedules too long. But having those discussions as far as what is going to be done, the scope of work, providing that to the crews, having them have that visual, also giving them that time to quote, and then the ability of returning and combining all those numbers and our numbers, and then providing that number to the client. That in a nutshell is outside of being sounding weird about it, is that's the only way we can do it. Like there's no other steps to like jumpstart something. We have to have all those in place. Otherwise it's going to not be a good project for anyone.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you're quoting kitchens, bathrooms, what is something that can pop up that people wouldn't notice or wouldn't know to expect? What would you know to look for that other people will miss?
Great question. We started a project in Kirkland area just a couple weeks ago. We started doing demo in their bathrooms and behind the vanity cabinets, and actually behind the toilet and behind the showers tubs was rot. The house had been probably untouched since the beginning of the early 70s when the house was built. It was not devastating damage, but it was definitely damage that had been there for quite some time, and just ongoing water damage, water rot. Framing, the subfloors were bad, needed to be fixed and adjusted. And when you're in the bathroom before we did the demo, you couldn't see. You didn't know that there was damage. And even if you tried to walk it or do any testing, I mean, the cabinets were blocking it. The toilet was sitting on the rot. The tub, which is a massive tub, was covering all of that up, and you wouldn't have seen it because it wasn't enough to cause it to leak down below into the basement or into the garage, but it was enough that it's like, okay, if we don't fix it, there's going to be an issue down the road. And I think that plays very importantly, whether it's a bathroom like we were just talking about, or a kitchen, water damage, especially wherever there is water in those two areas. But also in laundry rooms or wherever, is a huge thing that a lot of people don't realize. And that kind of goes back into when we do the only reason that numbers would adjust for us is when we uncover that issue, that damage where we need to replace, because none of us have x-ray vision. None of us would expect it, but I'm also not going to include it in our estimates, with the sense of, well, everything could be damaged, so no, we're going to price out. No, we'll quote after and give the client an additional cost if there is damage, just because we're not worrying about what could be rather than what is.
I was going to ask, what is the protocol for that? I've heard a lot of different things of time and materials, or do you stop, re-quote it? Does work stop right then? Do you keep going without a signed change order? What could a homeowner expect from you at that point when you open up and it's damaged? What
we always do is we call it paper trail movement. Is that we express to the client on phone, on text, or in person, hey, this is the issue. The second part is, and this goes back to the paper trail part, is we are providing them an email saying, hey, this needs to be fixed. here's the amount that needs to be fixed. If it's a few $100, whatever it might be. The paper trail movement is the part where then they approve on email, because jobs like remodels can take months, if not more than multiple months, to do, that we are working with what may have been said 2 months, 3 months before. So paper trails is nice because then we have a set system of, okay, here's the number. They approve it on email. Now no one has to remember a he said, she said kind of conversation. But we usually stop work if it is involving that we can't proceed any further in that space until there is an approval. And for the most part, when we do sign contracts and work ahead of time with these clients, we express, again, what those change orders can be, water damage, what expectations can lead to it. And so when we do this procedure of, okay, stop work, process an approved change or a change order, have it approved, then begin work again, the clients are aware of it. So it's not like, well, why did you stop work? Or why did you send this email? It's all up front. They're aware of it, so there's no shock. But again, that goes back into that we can't do one. I don't want to do work one for free. Obviously, no one in this industry can do this for free. But at the same point is the knowledge that, again, we don't base our numbers on that what if happens, like as far as like the damage could happen. So we've not included any of this work into it. And it's, of course, extra work. So then we have to provide extra cost to that. So, I mean, we've never had a client be like, hey, this doesn't work and let's just scrap it. It's much as like we want to make sure that this is beneficial to the client, helpful for the client, and gets them back onto their schedule. And so for the most part, we haven't seen anything where it's like it's so devastating that the schedule's been pushed out a month. But these kinds of issues usually tend to be a few days of either pause or adjustments to the schedule, that's one thing we do try to kind of fill in is each of our teams usually get a lot more time than they need to do the work because of the experience and knowledge of the past times where there's been issues that instead of trying to tighten up the schedule and make it all pinpoint, is that ability of, okay, hey, you do have those extra day or two in the week and in this phase to make it beneficial and work.
Lastly, I wanted to touch on the cost and price differences. I know as a design build group, you're getting quotes from subcontractors. What prevents people from charging $100 for the same thing in Yarrow Point that would be $20 in Everett? Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes you're bidding granite versus Formica, but talk on that a little bit. Explain to me, what does Z-Design Build do differently and how do you approach that?
Well, two parts to the question. One is no matter where you live, no matter if you live in the Seattle area specifically, if you live in Kirkland and Medina or whatever area you're in, you're going to get the same quality, same price, no matter what. So that's part one. One, we don't increase our number because we think you have more money. I think that's a terrible thing to do. I really do. The second part is going back into allocations so we have client homework. So in our bids, it's overly detailed in our scopes, defining almost everything, if not everything, that is going to be done to your remodel, to your house, to your new construction. So in that is also involved in the finished products, the items that like outside of drywall and framing or insulation or whatever it might be that is a common denominator. Finishes like, cabinets on your countertops or, plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures are all put in a given allocation number. So unless you've already defined exactly what you want in those items, we're giving a start point number. So that means, like, for instance, going back to toilets we talked about, $150 toilets, that's usually our allocation starting point number. So when the client comes back and says, okay, hey, here's the plumbing, this is what we're going to do in the plumbing. You're going to have a toilet for $150. You're going to have a shower valve. You're going to have shower trim. You're going to have a tub. Whatever it is, all those numbers are prefixed with not a selection made. as much as just a placeholder number that gets us into say, hey, here's the estimate. And then if you decide to make those decisions, those allocation numbers, those numbers do kind of play in as far as a placeholder. Is these numbers are given from items in the past that we have used that are solid, that are, lack of a better way to put it, for us, entry level, but not entry level products. Entry level in the sense of these are the items that I wouldn't go too much lower than this price, but at the same point also know that this product, no matter where you live, in the higher expensive areas or the less moderate, whatever it is, that product is going to be a high quality product. And so starting with those allocations, you're going to have those numbers given in to where when we do sign the contracts or we're working in the design aspect of it, those allocations numbers would alter if a client chooses a $700 toilet. They just have that different change. And so that is also another part as far as allocations go, is that we're not raising the numbers for material cost for that choice. So if they choose a $700 toilet, we're not charging them $800 or $900 for that same toilet. We would charge, of course, for the pickup and the handling and all that product part of it, but we're not raising our prices for a material that they could easily get themselves. So I think that's another benefit for us too. But for all in, no matter where you're at, the allocations is a set number that then we work with the clients to make that decision. But at every single standard part of it, we're going to provide a high quality time, high quality product, high quality fixture, to where at the end of their job, we would love to have them come back, but not come back in the sense of, hey, this is an issue. Our toilet is now failed. Our shower is now an issue. So we have that opportunity of giving to, again, any area, especially in the Seattle area, Kirkland, Medina, Everett, Mount Vernon, Cedar Woolley. It doesn't matter. You're gonna get the same service from us no matter what.
All right, Eric, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you answering the questions and hanging out today.
Of course.
Thanks for all you guys watching at home. If you would like your own questions answered for your own remodel or new build, contact information will be at the bottom of the screen.